As you've heard, Adrian Peterson has been suspended by the league. He'll still get paid. Yesterday, this happens about once every 2 or 3 years. I just laid in bed all day, mostly. I was sick, came into work yesterday, literally looked at the staff, and I couldn't concentrate. Went home, slept 3 hours. That's after sleeping 9 hours. And then I woke up and I just watched radio, and I watched TV, and I watched Sports Center, and I listened to sports radio, and I just wanted to hear sort of how America felt about the situation. Adrian Peterson, a running back for the Vikings, is now on the exempt list, prohibited from team activities. And what I heard yesterday, it was interesting. I heard a lot about this, due process. Oh, everybody was on the bandwagon of due process. Hey, what about due process? Sometimes I've seen enough trumps due process. ISIS, beheadings, we're really not waiting for a fair trial. We don't really care about Syria's opinion. We may deliver airstrikes without Congress's approval. We've seen enough. Post 9/11, your civil liberties and mine were trampled. There was no time for a fair trial. We had to protect people. Jerry Sandusky, November 5th, the story breaks. November 9th, kids in danger, Joe Pa's done. We've seen enough. With Adrian Peterson, domestic violence, crimes against smaller people, especially children, I've got pictures, welts, a stick, an admittance, an indictment, texts. We've seen enough. This isn't just for stars, by the way. If a police officer in the line of duty shoots somebody, he'll get leave. Still paid, but right now, we're going to get you out of the department, organize stuff. If something's accused of a teacher, even if it's wrongly, she's put on administrative leave. Protect the kids. Welts, pictures, photos, abuse, indictment, admittance, leave, stuffing in a kid's mouth. We've seen enough. Due process isn't always granted in the case of safety and endangerment. Rules change. Crisis. That's the way it's always been. We have martial law in America. Do you know what that is? Search warrants? Not interested. Open up your door. The highest-ranking military official, it's an action plan used by our country. The highest-ranking military official takes over. Checks and balances, that's a you problem. Open the door. We should and do often for our citizen safety throw due process out the door briefly. Donald Sterling, by the way, we'd seen enough. No crime committed. Due process is a fundamental principle of fairness in all legal matters, especially in courts. Adrian Peterson will get his day in court. He's not being deprived of life and liberty and property. Still got his house. He'll just be staying in it on Sunday, not playing a football game, bumming out a handful of you fantasy football owners. As I listened yesterday, I thought about something, and it kind of bummed me out. Can you imagine how many of you guys out there who defended Ray Rice, and let's take Adrian Peterson. How many of you have a son, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? He's in the back seat of the car listening to sports radio or watching Sports Center as you get breakfast ready. Sometimes he watches TV by himself. He listens to radio by himself when you're not around. Your 5, 6, 7-year-old boy who you just couldn't live without. I mean, it would just devastate you. If he broke his arm, it would devastate you. If he was abused, you don't know where to turn. And that little 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old boy is in that car with you, the great dad, listening to sports radio, and guy after guy after guy calls the show and says, hey, I got beat as a kid. I'm stronger. That's part of parenting. Can you imagine what that little 3.5-foot dude is thinking in the back of the car, guy after guy? You know why so many crimes against women go unreported? Only 3 out of 100 rapists serve time? Because they watch the media coverage and think, will anybody believe me? I'm 100% on the media side, making errors on the side of victims and violence, because our system generally makes errors on the side of the creeps. Our judicial system, sadly, they say truth is blind, but it ain't cheap. The reality is the better attorney wins. Rusty Hardin, Adrian Peterson, $30 million a year attorney, 40 people at his disposal. a kid or a girlfriend, works in retail, overworked, underpaid local DA, no juice, 30 other cases simultaneously. Should we be proud of a society where only 3 of 100 rapists serve time and where 70 to 80% of domestic violence, the men physically abuse the women beforehand? OJ, and we did nothing, despite the calls. Where 5 kids die a day, 5 kids die a day due to child abuse. Or 20% of American women, that's your daughter. That's your daughter, fellas. You proud about that? Tough guy? It's your daughter. 1 of 5 will be raped. We have a society with 200 years of absolute proof. Stronger men physically abusing women and children. Why do we always give the creeps the benefit of the doubt? Screw due process. When it comes to kids, Sandusky November 5th, Joe Pa out November 9th. I'm not interested in due process when it comes to protecting people who can't protect themselves. Call, argue, threaten to never listen to me again. Bye-bye, take care. I'll get more women listening. They're smarter anyway sometimes. In this case, we've seen enough. It's repulsive. It's disgusting. It's abominable. It's absolutely, without question, not only wrong, but reprehensible. And when you defend his actions, your son and young daughter, she has a chance to be raped, and he has a chance to be beaten. Are you proud of that society we've carved out, fellas? Adrian Peterson should not play. It's up to the courts to give due process forever. But this weekend, sorry if he's on your fantasy team, bummer. That's a you problem. Good to have you in today. I'm heavily medicated, but fluid enough to get through that. It really was interesting to sit and watch yesterday. That, so many guys, I think we all admitted as guys, we were like, Ray Rice, like what was the NFL? Like, what was the NFL? Like, what more could they get out of that video from the elevator? Like, why did they need the actual video to figure out what Ray Rice did? We all sort of agreed on that, right? Like, all guys listening, we're all like, what did the NFL do? Like, you kind of knew what was happening, right? But yet some of those same guys are like, well, it's a witch hunt. Really? What more do you need on Ray Rice? What more do you need on Adrian Peterson? A week old, he had welts still on his legs, texts, a second person accusing. His life personally, do a little Google search, is an absolute mess. Violence from childhood until now. So we all acknowledge the Ray Rice elevator video was not necessary to deem Ray Rice's actions inappropriate. Like, I need video now with the kid? What? I don't want to hear about due process with kids. I don't want to hear about it. Trample it with kids. They'll get the due process in court, but a 5-year-old can't pick up a phone and dial. He needs us to fault on his side. We owe that little kid that. The Herd brought to you by Regis, fully furnished office. Plug in, get to work, 1-800-OFFICES. NFL sponsors. I mean, it's just so transparent. Seriously. They're outraged. So outraged. In fact, they sent a letter. I mean, I almost feel like boycotting people who just send letters. I really. And by the hats off to Radisson, the only company that had the cojones to just say, we're out. And I've stayed at a Radisson. They have free Wi-Fi and great pillows. And by the way, they're offering a guilt-free continental breakfast if you'd like to go to Radisson. They didn't pay for that spot. They just deserve it. But, Anheuser-Busch, it was very expensive letterhead. The signature was real ink from the 1800s. No, Radisson had the guts to say, we're appalled. We've seen enough. Good for them. And they're not even a sponsor and probably never will be. I may stay at one tonight and I even have a bed ready for me at home. I may just stop by the Radisson and just here's a hundy.
The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup is upon us. The Challenger Round.
There's a new format, 16 drivers, 3 races.
Chicago, New Hampshire, Dover. They're going to have to find their groove on every track.
This is like no other playoff in racing.
12 will advance after this round.
4 will be eliminated. Everybody's on edge.
Oh, man, this is going to get interesting.
The Challenger Round. 16 nations battle, 12 advance in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. The Sylvania 300 at New Hampshire. Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN.